Welcome to day 15. Today we're going to be talking about Genesis chapters 40 to 41. Quick recap: Abraham was promised to be the father of many nations. His son is Isaac. Isaac has a son named Jacob. Jacob becomes Israel because he wrestles with God, and he has 12 children or 12 sons. The youngest two are Joseph and Benjamin, and we're going to be focusing on Joseph. We learned yesterday that Joseph was the favorite son, and he got sent to Egypt because his brothers sold him. And Isaac or Jacob did not know that he is still alive. So that's where we are picking up today. While Joseph was in the prison, there were a butler and baker with him. A butler and a baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, had a dream, both of them. So Joseph saw them. They were sad. Say, hey, what's up? And they said, I have a dream, and but no one can interpret it for me. So Joseph said in verse 8, I like this verse. Joseph was very confident. So far as I know, he hasn't interpreted any dreams before this, but he said, do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, please. The confidence that comes with that. That's very impressive. So the chief butler told him his dream, and Jacob told him the interpretation. He said, within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you up your head and restore you to your place. And you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to the former manner when you were his butler. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh and get me out of this house, because he has done nothing wrong. So the chief baker saw that the interpretation seemed legit, so he said, it's my turn, me. So he told Joseph about his dream as well. Maybe he's hoping it's going to be a good result, but here it says, this is the interpretation of it. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh from you. And so it was Pharaoh's birthday, and it exactly happened how Joseph interpreted it was going to be. But the chief butler forgot about Joseph. Chapter 41 talks about the dream of the Pharaoh. Now, Joseph has 2 out of 2 interpretation of dreams so far. And so, as the Pharaoh had a dream, but he was very troubled. And the butler finally at that time said, oh, I remember, there's this Hebrew guy named Joseph. Maybe he can help us. And so they sent for Joseph. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon, and he shaved, changed his clothing, and came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. No one who can interpret it. But I have heard it is said of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it. So Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, here's the humility with whenever you see genuine people of God, when they get complimented, it seems like they're like, no, it's it's not me, it's God. So he said in verse 16, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, in my dream I stood on the bank of the river. Suddenly 7 cows came up out of the river, fine looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and gaunt. Such ugliness I have never seen in all the land of Egypt. And the gaunt and ugly cows ate up the first 7 fat cows. When they had eaten them up, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were just as ugly as the beginning. So I awoke. Also I saw in my dream, and suddenly 7 heads came up on one stalk, full and good. Then behold, 7 heads, withered, thin, and blighted by east wind, sprang up after them, and the thin heads devoured the 7 good heads. So I told this to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me. So Joseph was able to deliver and interpret the dream of the Pharaoh. It says here, God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do, and God will surely bring it to pass. He says that what will happen is 7 years of great plenty will come throughout all the land of Egypt. And then after the 7 years, famine will arise. And all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine will deplete the land. So the plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following, for it will be very severe. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice because the thing is established by God, and God will surely bring it to pass. And then Joseph advised the Pharaoh to collect 1/5 of the produce for the 7 years while they were where they were plentiful. Then the food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during the famine. And this is when Joseph starts to rise in power. The Pharaoh said, "Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God?" And because Pharaoh was very impressed with Joseph, he said, "You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." Joseph gathered very much grain as the sand of the sea until he stopped counting, for it was immeasurable. So Joseph was born 2 sons. Firstborn he called Manasseh, for God has made me forget all my toil and my father's house. Second one is Ephraim, saying, "For God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction." Then the 7 years of plenty, which were in the land of Egypt, ended, and the 7 years of famine began to come. As Joseph has said, the famine was in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. So when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Then Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph. Whatever he says to you, do." The famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians. And the famine became severe in the lands of Egypt. So all countries came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain, because the famine was so severe in all lands. For my takeaway, first one is those who are intimate with God, God reveals his plan. In Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 3, it says, "Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." Of course, it's pretty cool to be able to interpret dreams, and I thought, oh, I want to have that. But then I realized maybe not, because I've already been entrusted with the knowledge of the gospel. I know it's a very common knowledge now, and so the tendency of something common is we think, that's common, and that's nothing special. But to me, I hold the message of gospel as though it's, I mean, personal mission. I know when we go to church, we get hyped up and this and that, but to me, at my very core of my being, that's very true, and that's why I'm doing this. This is not for me. This is for unbelievers. So when I talk to the camera, I think of non-believers. I do this for you, even though you probably don't appreciate this ever, maybe, but if you do, mission accomplished. But this is for the unbelievers, because there will be not just famine, but judgment day, which is far more sobering, far more fearful thing. It's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Second takeaway is that everything works out for the good to those who love God, as in Romans chapter 8, verse 28 says. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. It's very comforting to pull yourself back from a situation while you're doubting God, but your belief in his character, in his love, that he will protect you, that brings me comfort whenever I think of that. I know if you're a non-believer, you will just say, it happens, this or that happens. It doesn't matter. God intervenes, God doesn't intervene, there's no difference. But to me personally, and I feel it to my core, feel, that's not a good word. I believe in God's word. And so that's able to carry me, give me hope. And this hope does not disappoint us. Let us hold unswervingly to the faith, because he who promised is faithful and he can do it. Here in Psalms chapter 91, verse 14 to 16, God says, "Because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. So Joseph feared God, and God rewarded him for that. And that's my hope for us. We probably would never fear God because faith does not come magically, it doesn't come from the sky, and voila, you have faith. Uh, to me personally, at least, when I read the Bible, it's just much as like watching a TV series. Uh, when your friend talks about this TV series that they are so passionate about, you feel so disconnected about the characters because you have no experience, you have no idea or who they are until you start watching the show, and then you fall in love to their character. So it's very much the same with you reading the Bible and then getting to know yourself firsthand that this is the story and this is the same God who pursues each and every one of us. He is a personal God, and that's my hope that as you read the Bible, you just don't gain knowledge but also agree in your heart that this God is pursuing me and I am pursuing him, not knowing that he is our pursuit, the same way that we crave for air, food, all the basic necessities. We need God, even though I agree that it's very livable not to acknowledge God and go on living your life. But my prayer, I do hope that you see or you say yes when you feel him tugging into your heart. And that's my takeaway for today. Thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you. My hope, my prayer is that you would seek God through the Bible, and please take very good care of yourself. Bye bye.